This is the project introduction for our module on modular construction. And I figured I'd start off by showing you a few student projects. These were done in the past. Some of these were pre-COVID. And that brings up a change in the way that I've actually done the final layout of this. So here's a project the student did a really nice job on. And on the left here, you can see there are the modules that were used to create the full layout. The student then took those and added nice interior fit-outs or arrangements, and then brought them all together in a nice composition. One of the things I want to call your attention to, just kind of a change in the way I'm doing things, the sheet on the left is the final output sheet. It was done in Revit as a full-size drawing sheet. Everything was placed on it. All the renderings were done inside of Revit. I thought it was a great way to do presentations, and really, with today's popularity in using Lumion and other rendering engines, this just doesn't seem very practical any longer. I was never happy with the layout because it required printing, and I much prefer that we can actually do this in a format that can be presented digitally, as we've done with our other projects, so that our board dimensions match that of our digital outputs. So with that in mind, another project, I think an outstanding project, an articulation, a nice articulation of the facade, just by stepping back some of the modules. And actually the student I think went to 10-foot modules, and did a really nice job with the even the integration of the stairwell within the whole unit. So I thought this was a really outstanding project. And just to show you how, once again, form independent or creative freedom that you have, even when you're working with what seems like a fixed set of modules. Here the student created a module that would allow them to, well, actually a bunch of elements in here that would allow it to stack in a circular arrangement, and quite an interesting layout. And then here on the right, the manipulation of the stair towers and this swooping element on the facade, just built by mirroring and reflecting and creating other components within that to create a really unique and interesting facade. And if you look all the way down to the bottom, you can even see the build out of the interior of the facade in this one. And then, oops, I'm sorry, I jumped way ahead there, hitting a space bar. Just a little more sedate, but also very nice layout. Just the articulation looks like they went to a 10-foot wide module, also 10 or 12-foot wide module. And then just by doing some different sweeps on the facade, coming up with a nice composition. And then even being able to create curved surfaces here. I thought this was really nice. You'll notice here the student's talking about taking 3 hours to complete that. There's no interior build out, but it's a nicely articulated idea of a facade. This student here took 2 days to do that work, right? So students are really all over the map, so to speak, with the amount of intensity that they put into these projects. So while we're in this introduction portion, I'd also like to talk about where we're going with it. We're going to add some issues about lateral and seismic loading in our first construction of this. I think it's really critical that we kind of address that, especially because of NAB requirements. So we're going to actually come back to this project later on. This is just a statement, B5 structural systems. This was one of our critiques at one time. Courses have too many exercises and not enough project or project-based applications, especially relative to lateral, gravity, and seismic loading. These should likely be integrated into tech courses. This was a criticism by our accreditation board. And so some of our focus on this project is to really think in a structural way about the buildup of our componentry here. So here we have the idea of stairwells and shear walls and some other components, and I'll discuss that more in detail. And then eventually we're going to come back and revisit this project, and we're actually going to use an adaptive component. We're going to get into discussing some issues about seismic loading, and we'll look at creating a stairwell with bracing systems in it, and then using a gypsum board sheathing system in order to create fireproofing for it. So that's the introduction. That gets us started. I'll show you in the next series here what I'm kind of expecting with the deliverables of a project that I've worked through.